Mental health here on BBC Radio 2, online, on digital radio and 88 to 91 FM.
BBC News at 1 o'clock. This is James Kelly. The Prime Minister has shocked Westminster by announcing plans for a general election in less than 2 months' time. She says Britain needs a stronger negotiating position to win the best deal on Brexit. She's accused opposition parties of causing disunity. Labour and the Liberal Democrats have welcomed the election. Theresa May has announced that she intends to call a general election on the 8th of June to strengthen her position in talks on Britain's Brexit deal with the European Union. Speaking outside 10 Downing Street, the Prime Minister accused opposition parties of weakening the government's negotiating position and said the country needed unity. She had repeatedly said she wouldn't call an election before 2020, but she said she'd recently changed her mind.
It was with reluctance that I decided the country needs this election. But it is with strong conviction that I say it is necessary to secure the strong and stable leadership the country needs to see us through Brexit and beyond.
The Brexit Secretary, David Davis, gave this programme his first reaction to the news.
This is obviously a nervous-making thing for any politician. Elections are what we're here about, what we do. But it's also, of course, there's always an element of risk. We want to win, but the public will decide.
Jeremy Corbyn welcomed Mrs May's announcement, saying Labour would offer an effective alternative to the Conservatives and stand up for the people of Britain. He refused to be drawn on whether he would resign if he lost the election and said he was looking forward to taking his message to every part of the country.
I welcome the opportunity for us to put the case to the people of Britain, to stand up against this government and its failed economic agenda, which has left our NHS in problems, which has left our schools underfunded, which has left so many people uncertain. We want to put a case out there for the people of Britain of a society that cares for all, an economy that works for all, and a Brexit that works for all.
Scotland's First Minister Nicola Sturgeon said the move was a huge political miscalculation by the Prime Minister and would give the Scots a further chance to reject what she called the narrow, divisive policies of the Tories. In a tweet, the Liberal Democrat leader Tim Farron said it was an opportunity for people to change the direction of their country and avoid a disastrous hard Brexit. Our assistant political editor Norman Smith says Mrs May is gambling on the opinion polls being correct in the hope of gaining a big majority.
If the polls are right, she may be returned with a significantly larger majority, which would also hugely strengthen her position in the House of Commons. But let us be honest, elections are entirely unpredictable. We've seen that at the last general election. We saw it in the Brexit referendum. You could argue we saw that in Donald Trump. You would hesitate to predict anything on the basis of opinion polls.
In other news, the American Defence Secretary Jim Mattis says the failed North Korean missile test over the weekend was an attempt to provoke something, but he said the US would work with China to try to reduce tensions. More than 800 women are taking legal action against the NHS and manufacturers, saying they've suffered pain or disability caused by vaginal mesh implants. The mesh is implanted in many women to treat incontinence or prolapse, often after childbirth. Some patients say they've been left unable to work or walk. The theatre director, Michael Bogdanov, has died at the age of 78. He once went on trial at the Old Bailey over alleged indecency in his staging of Howard Brenton's play, The Romans in Britain. Our arts correspondent, Lizo Mazimba, reports.
Michael Bogdanov worked with many of the world's leading theatres and companies. He was an associate director of the Royal National Theatre for 8 years, directed productions for the Royal Shakespeare Company and co-founded the English Shakespeare Company in 1986. He was known for his modern interpretations of Shakespeare, his staging of new plays and his work with young people. In 1982, he faced legal action at the Old Bailey after the morality campaigner Mary Whitehouse brought a private prosecution alleging there was a sexual act in his production of The Romans in Britain at the National Theatre. The case collapsed on the third day of the hearing.
Lizo Mazimba reporting. In the city, the pound fell before Mrs May's statement and then bounced back during her speech. Some analysts say there may be more market volatility during the election campaign. A short time ago, the FTSE 100 share index was down 124 points at 7,203. The weather largely dry across the UK and mostly sunny in England and Wales this afternoon, but skies will cloud over from the northwest of England, bringing some patchy rain later. The temperature will reach 8 Celsius in Edinburgh, 9 in Belfast, 12 in Cardiff and 14 in London. BBC News at 5 minutes past 1.
With James Kelly reading it on The Jeremy Vine Show. Where we'll have everything we